Hi, I'm Laura.
Hey, I'm Stefan, and you're listening to Attributed, a podcast library by Dreamdata.
The purpose of it is to store and share all the knowledge that we have gathered across Dreamdata employees through our LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, and webinars.
The typical topics you'll find here can be stuff like marketing,
Sales,
B2B ads,
operations,
social selling maybe.
Good morning and good afternoon to everybody joining us live or listening on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And today I'm very, very excited to be joined by Devin Reed on this LinkedIn Live. I've seen Devin so many places on LinkedIn and on pictures and lives, but have never actually spoken, which is the crazy thing. And I think you might have a similar thing with Devin because it seems like everybody knows his content, the way he works, the way the reader is getting up to it. I'm so excited. Devin, welcome to the call today.
Hey, Laura, thanks for having me.
So for today's call, if there are people who do not know how your path got to B2B content, can you give us a quick intro?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start just the career journey. If we want to go, prior life, we can do that later. So I started my career in sales. So I was a SaaS sales rep for about 6 years. I was at small companies of 12 people, all the way to companies about to go public like Eventbrite, and ended up at Gong in 2017 as the second sales rep when there are 40 employees globally. I was on the sales team for about 2 years there until we were about 20 million ARR. And then I jumped over to marketing where I became the head of content. And I was there for 3 years from about 20 to 220 million ARR. In charge of all things content in terms of blog, thought leadership, social, webinars, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. Then I jumped over to Clari, which is a forecasting tool, became the head of content and customer marketing there. And then a year and a half ago now, I moved my family from the Bay Area to San Diego, California, turned in my Clari laptop and went full-time with the Reader, where I basically help B2B SaaS companies do what I helped Gong and Clari with, which is build a content system that helps grow their pipeline, brand, and following.
Fantastic. And I love the career journey from sales and not just into marketing, but content marketing. You don't hear that a lot. What being in Gong and Clari taught you about proper B2B content marketing?
I would say, I definitely learned a lot there. I think coming from sales was what actually helped me the most because there's just such a high level of accountability. And it's a little bit more binary that I like, which is you either close the deal or you don't. You either hit quota or you don't, or your team hits the goal or you don't. Whereas in marketing, and this is no shot at marketers if anyone's getting offended at 9 a.m. Pacific, but there's a lot of ways where we can say we're not driving revenue, but we're doing other things. Or, we're not helping grow the business, we're doing other things. And in my opinion, you're either growing the business or you're costing the business. Now, I know there's how do you measure design? I'm not talking about the measuring the impact of, but for me, in a content standpoint, it was look, how do we do sales at scale? How do we publish something digitally, either in an event format or a blog or anything that creates demand, gets people to come to us? That was kind of my big thing. I'm tired of chasing people. That was my thing in sales. You're always chasing people, trying to get them to do stuff. Marketing, I was how can we use, content and persuasive marketing tactics to get people to be attracted to us and to come to us and say, hey, we know you, we like you, and we want to do business with you.
Interesting. So kind of creating a FOMO effect for people to actually want to book a demo and to start talking with Gong or Clari, right?
Yeah, it's doable.
Insane. So when you started Reader now, what and why did you start?
Yeah, so the Reader's a pun on my name. Folks haven't gotten that. I'm a dad of 2, so the dad puns are heavy.
That's good.
It actually started about 7 or 8 years ago when I was at Eventbrite. I was a sales rep. I've been there for about a year and a half, had a lot of success, but wanted to get out of sales. Mm-hmm. And so there was nothing in sales enablement. Sales leadership wasn't the path yet. And so I had tried to move into marketing. One of the content marketing managers had quit. Long story short, I didn't end up getting the job. I went all the way to the final interview. And instead of going with the internal sales rep, surprise, surprise, they went with an external marketer with 10 years of experience. And it really, really bummed me out. But I had to have an honest conversation with myself and think, hey, if my current company isn't going to take that risk with me, An external one is definitely not, right? Like Laura, if a marketing leader who's never heard of Devin Reed sees sales rep for 6 years and they want to be a content marketer, they're gonna go in the trash. Like that, you're not even an interview. So to get that experience, I started the Reader, which was really my way of just getting marketing experience. So my thought was, hey, I'm gonna sell, software Monday through Friday, days and a lot of nights, as we know it is. And then nights and weekends, I did a lot of writing for freelance. So blogs for people, sales cadences, anything I could get my hands on. Just to build up that experience. And so this was during the 2 years I was at Gong as a sales rep. And so when the opportunity came to join the marketing team, when I went to Udi, the then CMO, I had good sales record at Gong. I had done some marketing projects at Gong. I had, done some freelancing internally, if you will. And I had this external thing I was working on to show Udi, like, hey, I'm really about this. Like, I'm really committed. And I'm really glad I did, because one of the things that Udi had said during that very abnormal interview process, which was him getting coffee with me and walking around San Francisco until he was either fully in or fully out on Devin Reed, is he said, hey, I want to make sure that you're joining marketing, not escaping sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really smart way to think about it. And I have kind of taken that as a leader in myself, of just understanding decisions and how people are thinking. Like, are you trying to leave something or commit to something new? And that's not always the same motivator. And so that's how I started it. And it was just a side thing until it became, was just freelance writing. I kind of didn't do much of it while I was learning marketing at Gong, because I was so busy and didn't have much time or energy to dedicate to it. But as I kind of got my footing underneath me, it had just kind of turned into very light advising. Then I launched a newsletter. Then I was selling newsletter ads. So it kind of very slowly became from a side, almost like an afterthought, to a side hustle, to like, oh, wow, this is actually a full business if I dedicate 40 hours a week to it. Nice.
It's a thought-provoking thing to think, are you running from something, or you are choosing to go to marketing? Mm-hmm. I like that. I'll have to work on that myself as well. But when you're talking about content right now, is it in most of the organizations an overvalued or undervalued function?
That's a really good question. I would say I have a skewed, like, if you look at me as market research, like, who do I talk to? I have a skewed view because people are coming to talk to me because they probably believe in content, right? So I'm mindful of that. So I would say generally, though, I still think it's undervalued. But I think it's undervalued because it's still misunderstood, just as marketing is misunderstood. So if you think in the SaaS world, right, like, how many founders are technical? Uh-huh. Most, right? And so you can't knock them for being like, wait, you don't understand sales and marketing and you don't love it and fully get the value of brand marketing, long-term investments. Like, you can't be surprised by that, right? But so it simply is. And so a lot of times technical founders or technical, maybe technical leaning, even C-suite teams might not understand, hey, why do we have to do this long play? Mm-hmm. Can't we just hire a bunch of SDRs or do a bunch of Google ads? Like, can't that work? Which it does work until it doesn't. And then you have to have a backup plan, right? So I would say it's still undervalued, very misunderstood. And even a lot of times the companies that believe in content and marketing are still just figuring out how to do it well and how to do it differently from their competitors so that they're actually getting the return on their investment that they're hoping for. Yeah.
Do you think that type of undervalue and willingness to go more to the like outbound links and let's just get people to love our product instead of getting them to feel the FOMO not having it, is that due to the lack of measurement of content?
Oh God, yes. Huge. If there's no, I know this is this is gonna sound like a big plug, but like until your company, until Jundo, like it's hard to see linearly. I used to have to tell people you have to take a small leap of faith. Like when you're making this investment in LinkedIn, for example, it's a great one because yes, if you're on the paid side of LinkedIn, you can see, hey, I put $100,000 in on this date. We went to these ads at these people, and then I got this amount of pipeline or not right at the end. There's a linear thing. So it feels like a safe bet because I can see it and I can understand. Now, the challenge is when you go like to organic, like, hey, we're going to have our CEO post on LinkedIn, minus boosts and LinkedIn ads and all this stuff, like just posting. Then you get the question like, well, how do we know that Laura, our buyer, saw this post and bought later, right? There's this big, black box or what was it? Dark social happening.
Yeah.
And so it created this divide of companies who are not only able to do this, but are willing to take that risk and say, hey, I know that this is the right play because I, as a consumer, also get information from podcasts, from LinkedIn, from word of mouth. And content is all three of those things or sparks word of mouth. So I think, the long answer to a short question is the inability to see linearly what is the impact of content has been probably the biggest barrier to investing in it, even more than not understanding it. Because even if you don't understand how something works, seeing numbers on a screen will help you at least go, oh, well, the money, I see dollar signs, so that's fine if I don't understand how it works.
But if you are not able to connect it to the actual dollar, because it can be very, very difficult, what kind of other business results do your clients usually look after when kicking off the content and measuring it further?
So I actually love what AI search has done to our brains lately, because now everyone's saying, well, our traffic's down, so we need visibility, right? That's what everyone's talking about. Like, how do we show up there? Which is really the same thing for content. Like, you need to be seen. Everyone says they have an awareness problem, right? Or a lot of people have, a lot of companies have an awareness problem. Even if you're a big company, you might have an awareness problem in a certain vertical or geographic location. And so, I think it's great to start to say, okay, we want revenue, we want pipeline sourced and influenced, but those are lagging indicators. Yep. Our early indicators, I say, are views. If you're on LinkedIn, it's views. Are people seeing the content on your website? Like, web traffic has a place. I know it kind of has been, pinged around of like, is it really worth monitoring and how much? But another big one is very few B2B SaaS companies have an audience growth metric. And so I always say, like, your LinkedIn company page is important. I think getting your CEO or your thought leaders active and tracking how many followers they have, that's a great measurement. How many views, to my initial point, are you getting? Like, that's literally visibility, like showing up on the feed where people log in every single day that are in your buyer group. So I like to tell folks views, followers, and then again, web traffic with some, I'm kind of doing the handshake thing for listeners where I'm like, with some caveat there.
Got it. Is there a specific trap that companies fall into when trying to measure it? Like, that usually don't look at that too much?
I think the biggest trap that I see, or maybe just a misconception, is like people will say, hey, we're investing $10,000 a month into SEO and we're getting a lot of traffic, but we're not getting pipeline. We're not getting meetings out of it. And a lot of times it's because the page has been built for views, whether it's an AI overviews or actually being clicked and seen on your website, but they're not actually optimized to either one convert. I'll just say convert them. It's actually not optimized to convert. Now, when I say convert, people think demo, right? And I've done a lot of content audits in the last 18 months. It's a big part of my offer. And I will say the number one mistake that I see from a conversion standpoint is the only CTA is a demo. Talk to us. It's like, okay, well, this is a listicle about the 10 best attribution tools, so like maybe I'm ready for a demo, but maybe I'm not. Yeah. So if I'm not ready, how come there's not an option to convert them to a follower or convert them to an email subscriber or convert them to a podcast listener? So there's so many ways you can convert, but we've gotten so obsessed with pipeline that we just jam the highest intent, lowest funnel option into all of our content, get a lot of views from a lot of people, and then be like, I don't know, why don't they want to talk to us in sales? It's like, they're not nearly ready. They probably just figured out you exist 30 seconds ago. You gave them the information, and now you're like, jumping the gun on a demo request.
Give me 30 minutes of your time now.
Yeah, you gave me 30 seconds. How about 30 minutes and $30,000?
Yeah, exactly, on the first call. Let's get a little bit practical. So when you start working with your clients, how do you advise about the content that drives growth? So we want the revenue, we want the demo booking. So what type of content do you build into an offering or suggest companies to start with and finish with in order to be successful?
Okay, I'm a tangent guy, as you probably already noticed. So I'm going to go on a tangent, and then I might miss the actual question you're asking. So
I'll be back.
But it will frame it. It will frame the answer. So when I was at Gong, I kind of had this philosophy, which I won't curse, but there's a curse word in it, which is like, I understood, having come from sales, that no one gives a shoot about your product.
Yep.
Not yet. right? Like, how many times have you cold called someone? They're like, you know what, Devin, thank you so much. I was just thinking how I need a call recording software, and here you are. No, emails, even you have to persuade the heck out of them, right? Like, it's so rare. And so when I was in marketing, same concept, like no one cares about our product, so I'm not going to talk about it. And so for a full year at Gong, we didn't talk about any of our product. We have a product marketing team. I was in the content marketing and demand team, to be clear, but I didn't talk about product for a whole year. I wanted to earn attention and to build trust with this audience and then introduce how they can buy from us later. I think about a year ago, the B2B Marketing Institute came out with the 95-5 rule, which essentially captures what I just said, which is of your entire addressable market, of all the people you could sell to, only about 5% are, quote, in market right now or have intent to research or intent to compare or intent to buy. 95% are not in market. They did not wake up hoping to get a cold call from Devin Reed, right? And they are not looking to buy, but they do have intent to learn, right? To learn how to do their job better. And so when I'm creating content, I explain this to folks and say, hey, you're probably over-investing in the 5%. Mm-hmm. Ads, you should have a G2 crowd page where so people can research you. You should have high intent SEO pages, right? You should capture the existing demand that's there. But that's the same thing, kind of like SDRs, like how much of that can you really manage, right? How much can you really get? So you need to focus on the 95. And so that's why I built the 95-5 content system, which is what I built at Gong and Clari, which is playing the long game. Because ultimately what we want to do is to get people to know us, like us, follow us, trust us. So when they do enter the market, whether it be tomorrow or 18 months from now, they think of us. Mm-hmm. And they think of us and they call us first. So now what you've done is you've made the consideration list, but you've also leading the consideration list. So they come talk to you and then they compare all your competitors. If they go talk and take other calls, they're now comparing all of them to you. You're in the driver's seat.
That's very scary because you leave them alone and you don't book the meeting on the first visit on your website. And then you're going to have to lean back and wait for them to come back and feel that you're leading. How do you feel about that? Your customers must be terrified.
Salespeople go, why would I wait? They're here now. Let me pounce. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going to spend a lot of time pouncing on people that, no one really wants to be pounced on. That's the analogy breaks down. But, they're not ready yet. Yeah. So the thing is hey, how do we bring them into our orbit? How do we say, okay, great, you landed on a page, you came to an event. How do we keep this relationship going? And that's why a lot of the best content marketing is programmatic or series-based, right? A podcast every week, a newsletter every week, LinkedIn posts 3 times a week, whatever it is. So you're getting opportunities to kind of bring them closer and keep them in your orbit. And then, of course, you still will share your product story. You'll still share company milestones. You'll show that your company is credible and share customer proof. But you're kind of putting it out there and then allowing them to come back to you, right? So it's kind of a pull method versus a push method. And it does take patience.
What type of signals would you start looking for that they're ready enough?
Yeah. And this is something we did at Gong really well, which was hey, we're pumping out a lot of content. We're getting nothing like the signal technology that exists today that we didn't have it, nor was it around. But we looked for, and I still think it holds true, is kind of think of it as how much activity in a time period. So as Laura engaged with one piece of content once a year for 3 years, we need to get her closer, right? She's probably not ready. She's familiar and you could take your shot, but probably not. Or did Laura come to a live event, subscribe to the newsletter, and come to 3 product pages in a week? Now I'd say she might be worth, taking out. Now, of course, it depends on what those product pages are. What was the context of that event, right? Was it very thought leadership focused? Was it product focused? But my point too is you could reach out to Laura and say, hey, we have, without being creepy, you can recognize where she's at and how familiar she is. And then say, hey, we have a bi-weekly product webinar where leaders like you solve 1, 2, 3. It's 20 minutes. Would you like to take a look?
That sounds like a very close collaboration with sales as well. How much do you see content marketers collaborating with sales as well, both for signals, but for outreach messaging too?
Not enough. Unfortunately, I call it Content Island. It's not a tropical place you want to be. It's not Hawaii. It's this lonely, deserted island, often off the coast of marketing, where content kind of is just put into a content factory, right? They're expected just to be reactive. If we need a case study, go make it. If we need a new deck or a new slide or a new this, and they're very reactive. And so they're not really collaborating with sales so much as unfortunately become kind of, as I called it, task rabbits, if you're familiar with this service in the States. So it's like, I want to turn teams around and say, we're not a task rabbit. We're actually, we have our own strategy. And yes, there's push and pull internally between sales, right? There has to be, I don't like the word serving or servitude because that doesn't make us equal partners, but we should be supporting sales with maybe 20% of our bandwidth. Right? Hey, we have to carve out 20%. So when sales needs something, we jump on it because we are here to make sales happen.
Yep.
But you also have to have a strategy that you can set and defend to explain, hey, we're on your fifth ask this month. I'm actually going to say no this time because here's our plan, here's our strategy, and here's the direction we're going as a marketing team. Right.
Yeah. Got it. And if we get into more back to the marketing realm, there used to be a thought that we have to pump as much content as possible, SEO, and everybody has to find us. The more we write, the better it is. Yeah. Seems like it's shifting a bit, going from kind of publishing more to publishing what matters. What is your take on that?
I agree that that's happening. The pendulum is swinging back in the right direction, I think. I think the reason why is it took a lot of dollars and a lot of time of saying, hey, we've been doing more for a while and that's not working. And so what the thought was like, hey, we're creating, some content, we're getting some results. Let's create more content, we'll get more results. Well, now we're saying that that's not the case, right? More does not, more output doesn't always equal more outcomes.
Yeah.
And so the other thing on top of it is that budgets have been decreased and marketing teams have been downsized. So now more becomes even less attainable. It's even harder to do. So we have to think, okay, if we wanted to actually market as smart as possible, and instead of saying we'll publish 100 things this quarter, we're going to publish 10, probably more, but you get the idea. What would those 10 bets be? What's the 10 smartest, most impactful things we could do for the short term and the long term of the company and the pipeline goals we have? So I think it's forcing that conversation and a bit of coming to Jesus, for lack of a better phrase. Forgive the religious undertone or overtone there. But I think people are just kind of having to face reality that more is not working.
Yeah. And
so we have to find a different, better way. And of course, AI has made this only more tempting. So there's still companies leaning in heavy into AI, can just do a bunch more. And there's people realizing, hey, if we really want to be different, we have to come up with our own point of view. And we can't just trust ChatGPT to put out a whole bunch of marketing collateral and expect that to drive the results we need.
When you were working at Gong and Clari, were you always focused on the business results, or was there a specific time where it shifted actually? And come with some examples what has happened.
Yeah, so I think one of the strengths of coming from sales to marketing was having sold a lot is, the best deals are at the C-suite, right? So you can get away now if you have a small ACV, you can get away with a senior manager, director, right, buying $5,000 to $10,000 of software. But if you're selling $50,000, $100,000 or more to a VP of marketing, you have to get to that C-suite because the CMO is not going to cut a check for $100,000 without knowing why. So what I had learned in sales was you need to get to the CEO slide. The CEO slide, we've all seen it. It's the thing at the beginning of the year, maybe quarterly, hopefully quarterly as well. The CEO comes on stage or on Zoom and says, hey, here's the 3 or 5 company initiatives for the year. Right? It's usually like double revenue. Good luck. Launch a category, win the category, launch an EMEA, right? Launch a new product, like these really, really big things. And what I learned was this isn't just what the CMO or my executive buyer cares about. It's what the CEO talks about. It's what the board is thinking about. So if you can tap into those level of priorities, you're going to get budget and you're going to get some leeway to go make it happen. So what I would do is when I have an idea for a program or something that I want to launch, I would go back to the CEO slide and say, what can I build? What can I do to help this company attain that goal? An example would be at Gong. When I first joined the marketing team, I pitched a podcast duty. It was quickly shut down. And this was before Joe Rogan was like big. This was like Joe Rogan was like the only like podcaster anyone in America could name probably. It was like, why would you do a podcast? But I had seen some of the signs. And I said, I think we should do a podcast. He says no. I later learned he didn't listen to podcasts, so he was like never going to have it. And so 2 years later, we launched the revenue intelligence category. At the same time, I know we need to win the C-suite. We need to go up market, and we need to get into the C-suite. So I start to think I look at our current content strategy and I look at where we need to go. And I say, we need a channel that is dedicated to this audience with this purpose.
Okay.
And I think a podcast is actually the best way, because this was pre-pandemic where people were on trains, planes, automobiles a lot, listening to content. And I'd even talked to our CRO and said, hey, when you have a big work problem, but you're too embarrassed to ask someone internally, what do you do? He said, I pick up the phone and I call an executive friend of mine or someone I trust. So I launched an interview, or I pitched rather, an interview-based podcast series where once a week we would go talk to other executives on how they are growing their companies using revenue intelligence, which is basically data instead of opinions. Pitched it the Revenue Intelligence Podcast, because sometimes you just need to be on the nose. It was Reveal, the Revenue Intelligence Podcast. And I went to Udi and I pitched that, but I pitched it with the beginning first. Hey, you've been telling me we want to win this category. You've been telling me that you want to get executives. Ryan told me here's the content he listens to. Now is the time to launch a podcast. And that time he just said, yeah, go for it right away. And so I know I give you a big story. I promised tangents and stories to begin our conversation, but that's how I think of every quarterly planning, every strategy I build is what is the board and the CMO thinking about, talking about? And that's what we need to latch onto, because content does need to grow the business.
And when you work with your clients, how do they figure out what's going to be on the CEO slide? Where do we want to go with our content so we can reach that C-level with the content that we're writing?
So the first thing is even VPs of marketing, CMOs get this. Then like they may not call it the CEO slide, but like they get it and they're like, yeah, they can pull it up quickly. Mm-hmm. Another thing is if I bring it up and someone's like, I don't even know what that is. I haven't seen it. Like, okay, then we are not at the right level to even make this. Like, we can't move forward without this piece of information. Otherwise, we're on Content Island. We're just building things that we think would be good. And maybe we will get engagement. Maybe we'll go viral. Maybe we'll get lucky and build a great newsletter. But it won't be directly connected to the goals and the direction that the company is trying to go to. And I don't like that. So I bring it up. One of the examples to get more tactical was a recent company said one of their top 3 goals is called Get Loud, which is like they're in a very crowded space. It's in CX and AI. So it's like this booming industry, booming area, but there's a lot of competitors. Everyone sounds the same. So Get Loud was like, how do we win share of voice and become the primary brand? And so a big part of getting loud is just showing up. So it's like the first thought is like, what are we doing today to be loud? Like, how loud are we today? Are we 2 out of 10? Are we 5 out of 10? Are we shouting, but no one's listening? And so once you kind of get an understanding of, oh, we're actually at like 3 or 4 out of 10, we're not really producing that much content. We're not really doing anything different. Like, we're pretty quiet. Okay, great. So how do we get loud? How do we want to show up? Where do we think we should show up? And what concepts do we think and stories should we bring so that we're not just loud shouting at people, but we're loud talking with our audience? And so that's when we said, okay, great. Everyone in to answer your question, Laura, where do we build? Well, think of where is your audience physically and digitally all day, every day. I'm going to guess when you woke up either on your phone or on your laptop, you probably opened your email. You possibly went to LinkedIn, and you're definitely sitting at a desk.
Really?
Or some sort of a desk, right? So, and if you're in sales or marketing, you probably opened your CRM. Well, I can't build in Salesforce. Salesforce won't let me content market there yet, so I can't do that. But I can build a newsletter that you look forward to and anticipate, because I know you're going to be there. And I can build content on LinkedIn because I know that you're going to go check that out to get information and news. And then on your desk, if you have some cool, and can you see, if you have cool,
that's funny.
Yeah. You can get it on people's desk. I'm holding up the benchmark reports, which is a very smart move. It's thought leadership that's digital, and you can send it to people and get it on their desk, right? So this is, you can solve an awareness problem. You can solve a lot of problems this way by just thinking, look, where are they? Let's simplify.
Yeah.
Look, are they on TikTok? Maybe. Are they on LinkedIn? Definitely. Great. There's your answer.
Nice. And you mentioned also consistency of some specific channels chosen too. So there are some of the parts that have to be scheduled and executed all the time at the same time. But there are also some of the variation of that creativeness that comes into it. How do you think about that type of structure?
It's a good question. I actually never plan more than a quarter ahead at a time in terms of editorial. Unless you have a big annual report, then obviously that's going to, you're going to have to do that planning ahead of time. But I think over planning can not only slow marketers down, but cause a lot of overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you shouldn't be planning more than executing. I don't know what exact ratio could and should be. It probably changes in Q4 versus other quarters. But my thought is like, look, if we're going to win on LinkedIn, for example, we're launching a CEO's profile, right? We want to get them going. You're not going to get loud or get very viewed, if you will, or seen once a week, right? You're basically saying 4 times a month we're going to post and our market is going to see this, resonate with it, love it. Like, that's just not enough. 5 times a week might be too much. It might be your company and team might not be able to support 5 pieces of good content. So I like to commit to a pilot period of, look, we are launching this. We have some directional goals, but we are really here to set benchmarks. We've never posted this before. We've never posted from Laura's account before. So give us 90 days to build the strategy, execute on it, monitor everything that happens, things that take off, topics that don't, formats that work, formats that flop. And at the end of 90 days, we're going to come back together and say, great, what did we learn? How did we really do? And one of the biggest things I look at first is how many posts did we commit to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
If we committed to 36 posts and then we posted 12 times, the rest of the pilot almost is a moot point because like we didn't even show up and do the work, right? It's kind of like, oh, I missed quota, but I only showed up to work 8 out of 12 weeks. It's like, well, no, you didn't do enough calls. You didn't do enough work to get the outcome. So it's like the strategy wasn't broken, right? Like you didn't do the work.
Interesting. And now you're talking about the content that goes out both on LinkedIn on the personal level, but also on the company's page. Talk to me more about how do you mix those two? Where does the personality comes in? How much do we reuse of the content that we use on the website? And is there supposed to be a difference?
I view it like this. So one is a pure numerical factor, which is LinkedIn has said, I think it was LinkedIn, if not them, I've seen it somewhere, an incredible source of personal profiles like Laura, yours or mine, get 5 times more reach based on the algorithm than a company page. So to me, I have like on my left, door to the left, you have like a tough road, but a somewhat paved road. And then you look to the right and you're like, that is 5 times harder. It's 5 times worse terrain. It's uphill and it's curvy. I'm going left. Like, why would I take the hardest route there? Right now, I know there's some risks. People will say, oh, what if Laura leaves or such and such? Okay, you have to balance the risk in your own mind, right, and take it. But to me, it's an obvious choice. We also know we'd rather see a smiling face and a person than we would a brand and a logo. We obviously trust people more than corporations, small or large. So to me, it's a pretty obvious decision if you had to pick one. The way that you said, where's the personality come from? It's in the word personality. Mm-hmm. So the personality is very easy and self-evident on the personal profile. If you have obviously brand guidelines and a brand voice that should and could and should come through on the company page, I try to zoom out and think like, how do we really use a company page, right? So if I'm a buyer, or I'm not even a buyer yet, I'm just a professional, and I see Laura, you posted on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, I like this. I wonder what this is. Click Laura's profile. Mm-hmm. Now there's your conversion opportunity. Maybe I click follow because I really liked what you said, or I liked what you have on your profile, right? Now, I might even get interested and go down to, well, what's your role, right? I scroll down like, oh, what's this company? I never heard of this company before. I click the company. What are we really on that company page for? Headline and maybe the description. Like, what does this company do? Maybe where they're located. And you're lucky to go beyond that, right? Because we're moving quick and we just wanted to get some context to the conversation that we had just seen on LinkedIn in this example. So my opinion is you don't need to necessarily overinvest in the best content in the world on your company page. Make sure that you're telling the company story, though. So what's the brand story? What do you believe in? All of your marketing offers, new content should definitely be distributed through that page. And your product story. How are we different? What are we shipping? Why? Should all be present there. So Devin the rando or Devin 6 months later, who's deep in a sales cycle, wants to get more information and how are you showing up? It's super clear and immediate to me what this company is all about. And it should be congruent with the website, the LinkedIn page, the collateral I'm seeing, what people are saying in the market, etc.
Does it also have to reflect on the employees' owned accounts? Because you just mentioned exactly what the buyers are doing. They saw a post by somebody working at the company, then click the profile, and then the profile says that it's something totally different what the company does. Does the company have to care about those profiles?
I think you should definitely care, but you should not attempt to control. Mm-hmm. You have 100 employees, right? You're going to have some that are going to wear the company t-shirt every day of the week. If you give them 5, they're wearing it Monday through Friday, right? Oh. And they know the company narrative and they're all the way plugged in. And then you have some more zany characters who maybe would never wear the t-shirt and they're kind of a little more outspoken, a little different. That's people and that's natural in a company, and your profiles are going to reflect that. And I say that because, and I don't think you're necessarily heading this direction, but a lot of times people say, oh, we have to have this specific description under, where it says Devin Reed, head of content, has to have this description. Yeah, provide it. But you might not get 100% compliance there.
Yeah.
Right? Give that beautiful banner, great. Give it out to people, but you cannot force them. And that's the thing too, is you don't want to trade authenticity for control, which is like you have to let your employees be who they are and trust them because you hired them in the first place, versus say, hey, starting January 1st, all 100 companies have to have this banner with this type of profile picture, with this description. It's like people are going to feel constrained. You'll get some compliance, but you'll get a lot of resistance as well.
Yeah. When you start working with companies, what are the key metrics that you're looking into? Let's keep the metrics for later. I'm going on a tangent now. So when you're talking,
I love a good thing.
When you're speaking with your companies, what is the strategy for brand, for SEO, and for your content to build brand to start with? Then we're going to get into metrics. So what are the building blocks that you're looking for to build?
I'm no SEO pro, so I have some experience, but I haven't set out the strategy. I've kind of just been sharing this philosophy, which is look, if you're doing the volume-based approach, or if you're over-indexing on, you're overusing AI to write a bunch of web pages and they're not very good. If you're doing this approach, you're basically investing in bad first impressions at scale.
Okay.
Right? So if the page doesn't have useful information, it's not written in a very compelling way, someone might find you via search, jump onto your website, not like what they see, not get value, and now you have a negative brand impression, right? Now the next time I see your logo, I probably avoid it because I know that the trade-off wasn't there. I invested time, I didn't get the value I was looking for, whatever that may be. So I think too is sometimes people will say oh, there's we have our content marketing and our editorial team over here, and then we have our SEO team over here, and those are two different shops creating content for different purposes. One's really good and thoughtful, and the other one's for volume.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Imagine showing up to some work events and I'm oh, this is Devin who's thoughtful and cares, but other parties aren't really that important, but I'll still come. But I'm just going to kind of be
volume.
Yeah, I'm going to meet as many people as I can and tell them nothing about me. Right? You'd be wait, what? That is insanity to have two different personas in this way. And so I think it's the same thing with SEO. It's your brand, your content is your marketing. Mm-hmm. Your marketing is a huge chunk of your brand identity. So why is it okay in certain pockets to just outsource it to the cheapest route, the most volume play, and go, yeah, we'll get a bunch of traffic, and then they'll find our good content, and then they'll like us? This is just nonsensical to me.
So what you would do is, first of all, make sure that your website is optimized, because when they find you, make sure that that is right.
100%.
And then, as you mentioned, 95% written for people who are not buying right now, and the other 5% for get them to book the demo, right? If you were to build a dashboard for a content marketer, what should it include? What should there be of kind of measures there?
Well, I luckily have built a few. So the first thing, and maybe not necessarily in order, but I think kind of chronologically. So if I could have anything and everything, my dream dash, my first thought would be the early indicators. Now, I don't know, I don't think content produced would go through this dashboard, but if we could, I have a map slide of our cadence. So I don't know if we're going super dreamy, that would be kind of cool. But really, I want to know the visibility factor first. So where are we showing up in AI search, and what is our web traffic doing week over week, month over month? Now there's direct, there's branded search, there's also, I want to see that. The next thing I want to see is of the content we're producing on each channel, how are we doing? So for email, for example, are we gaining subscribers or are we losing them? Is our open rate going up or is it going down? Are unsubs going up or are they going down? Is CTRs, same thing, click-through rates, so those going up and down. On LinkedIn, I want to know views, engagements. I just map all of engagements together. So I just put reposts, comments, and reactions all in one total engagement number, because the engagement rate can be very misleading. And then views, if I didn't say that already, and followers, right? So I'm kind of I've got these chunks of the LinkedIn channel, this channel. I also love a good webinar digital series. Same with podcasting. So, hey, are we getting more views, more downloads, more rich, right? So these key KPIs, I can go deeper if you want, Laura, listing these out. But I want to know these, and I want to know what is our benchmark. So, hey, when we typically throw this type of webinar, we get 500 registrants, 30% show rate. Great. I want to beat that next quarter. All these metrics that I'm telling you are not on the dashboard just so I can have as many numbers as possible, but it's because it tells me the health and the effectiveness of what we're doing today and gives me a baseline to beat, because quarter over quarter, we should be growing all of these things. Otherwise, they're broken in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, everything would be growing. Not necessarily perfectly up and to the right, but some sort of growth.
How often would you be reviewing those?
Oh, on my obsessive days and end of quarter, probably more than I need to. In a more healthy sense, I used to do it every Monday for sure. I had it very manually built, but every Monday I had on my team insert numbers because it was manual. And I would look at it and I would say usually kind of like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think Monday is like, remind me where we're at. Wednesday is like a checkpoint if anything's changed. And then Friday is like, okay, what are we going to focus on the next week, or any kind of updates that I would send end of week. But for the most part, unless it's like the last day or 3 of the quarter, there's no point in having your dashboard open 24/7 and hitting refresh over and over again. Yeah, that's a lot.
What sizes of companies do you usually work with?
Right now, I'm in the probably like Series A, B to like C. So usually around like 70, roughly 100 employees to about 1,000 employees, like roughly in that ballpark.
Got it. And when you start to work with a smaller team, let's say Series E company that wants to punch above their weight with their content, what are the tactics that they could employ?
Oh, that's a good question. Tactics to employ to be bigger than you are. I think one of the biggest ones is also one people fight me on the most, which is like building in public. Company will cross 100 million ARR or 50 million ARR or 20 million ARR and not want to share that. So I go, okay, so you want the whole market to think that you're the best, and you want them to know you're growing really quickly. And there's 2 people ahead of you, like 2 other companies ahead of you in this perception, but you won't share receipts of the scoreboard. You won't share that you're winning. You want to win in private. Like, how does that work? How do you win privately and then the whole world views you as a winner? Now, I know there's other metrics and such, and I'm just using the one that came up this week in my world of like ARR, but there's a lot of ways where you can broadcast what you're doing. So for example, people often will host an executive dinner and never talk about it. Share the planning of it, share pictures there, share that you are out in the field, in the market, talking to the people that matter. Because when you see pictures of someone on stage, or you see, Laura, you're hosting an event with 10 other leaders in my space, whatever, like your credibility goes up.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to build credibility and proof that you're out here doing the work and really substantiating a lot of the claims that we make on our website, right? Or the claims that we make on keynotes and all these sorts of things. So I think building in public is people roll their eyes at it because they've heard this phrase, but they don't really do it, even though it works on us so well. So I think, again, it's like sharing milestones. I had another company say, we want to build in the healthcare space. So they put on a bunch of content, never talked about any of the stuff they were doing, just promoted the content. And I was like, you just had your CEO do a roadshow across the country with healthcare leaders, learned a bunch of cool stuff, probably had some cool pictures, had a lot of cool event spaces, didn't post any of them.
Uh-huh.
Not put that out there. It's not just talking about you make it about them, right? It's not, I did this, I learned that. You always make these insights and this story something that's entertaining and educational to the target audience. And so what you're doing is you're providing both value from an edutainment standpoint and showing momentum.
Yeah.
You're broadcasting that the company's making moves, we're growing, people are coming to us, and that gives out that signal of credibility that I mentioned.
And it also makes it much easier to create because you already have that knowledge and content. So there is not that much to recreate, like thought leadership. You are already a leader. You're talking with people. I love that because when you're saying building in public, you would feel like it's like a single founder who's talking every time how much money they have made or lost and so on. And you're afraid of that because if you're showing that you're losing, you're not sure if other companies will want to choose to work with you because you're sharing that in public. But if you're sharing your successes, your excitement about what's going on, everybody will have the FOMO and they will want at least to have a look at the company that is doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, too, is like, and I think opening the kimono, people think like opening the kimono, they're going to see everything. It's not a tell-all. It's not a, terrible board meeting. Let me share how that went. No, of course not. But we also identify with vulnerability, and we identify with missteps and mistakes. And so it's not that you have to share the mistake that cost you 10 million ARR in a bad board meeting, but you could share the mistake of, I don't know, something silly like, I totally forgot to order chairs at our event. So I asked 75 executives to stand for 3 hours. Don't tell my boss. How terrible. Oh my God. Right. So it's fun. And it's like, it's relatable. Right. So there's ways to show these quote unquote failures, mistakes in a way that's really just part of a greater story. Because no one wants to root for the person who never loses and wins every single time. That's why people hate the big sports teams like the Lakers and the Celtics, and sorry, I'm a basketball fan, and the Patriots back in the a couple of years back. People hated them because they won all the time. We like people. We like underdogs. We like people like us who are doing a good job, ambitious, but not immune to making a mistake from time to time.
Yep, and you relate to people that you probably want to work with as well.
Yeah,
they're doing a good job and doing it the hard work, really.
Yes.
It's very relatable because this is also how we grew at Dream Data too, especially on LinkedIn, because all of those like real stories, people want to hear them. So what happened? Were there no chairs or the food did not come on time? Whatever. It's like, let's talk about that as well, or something that we did on the website that didn't work. That's cool because your audience is listening and they want to see that you're actually trying to make a difference. I love that. Devin, we're about to wrap up. For people listening today, what is the one thing that they have to remember that we spoke about when leaving this?
Well, if you want to grow your career, if you want to get more creative freedom and more budget, go find the CEO sled. Make that a habit. And if you roll your eyes at me, that's okay. But sooner than later, you will come back to this piece of advice and you'll think, maybe I'll try it. Everything is easier when you understand it. It also, what it does is it shows your business acumen. So when you're talking at a C level, even if you are a specialist listening to this, when you talk to your CMO in your next maybe monthly or quarterly size of your company, and you bring this up, you are going to stand out against all of her other one-on-ones, because I guarantee you almost none of them are asking about this, thinking in this way. That's going to elevate you in her mind. The thing I'd say if you're on the execution level and you want to win is don't try to be better than your competition, be different. Something that does not exist, that your audience is craving, get passionate about that, nearly obsess over it, but don't get obsessed over it. And trust the process that if you do good marketing over time, good things will come.
There you go. That's the learnings from going through Gong, Clari, and all the rest of the clients that you're working with. Devin, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Thank you for bringing up the benchmarks as well. I love it that it's on the desk. This is our marketing's just keep on looking at that logo once in a while, then we're fine. We're fine. You'll see it other places later.
There's great stuff in there. I really like it. It's really well done.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you.
We hope you like listening to us. Subscribe to our podcast and the ones that we have been guests on.
And if you have any feedback for us, just do let us know. And should there be a guest that you think we should be talking to, then pitch us.
We're looking forward to seeing you.